sales. Welcome back to the channel, everyone, at Entrepreneur Sales. Hey, listen, it's important that you understand the science of closing and how that takes place and what that's all about. But I was working with my sales guys today, and I realized something. They're missing the science of closing, right? And a lot of accountants, almost said accountpreneurs, a lot of accountants, tax preparers, CPAs, y'all do the same thing, right? Let's go ahead and dive into this. This is a big lesson. And I just want to say something. You need to be ruthless and relentless when it comes to client acquisition and selling and understanding the sales process, and your outreach and your volume needs to be ruthless and relentless as well. I just can't express enough. I would say probably 100 to 200 calls a day or outreach per day, and then all three forms of communication: voicemail, text, email. Also, if you have employees that offer tax bookkeeping services, they need to be selling, right? They need to be selling the services. So anyway, grab a pencil and paper. That's not why you're here. You're here to learn how to close, the science of closing. Lesson 1, okay? Closing starts before the conversation. Most people, and I talk to a lot of salespeople across all different industries, they treat it like an event. Well, actually, sales is a process, okay? The prospect is closing themselves the entire conversation. Every question you ask either moves them toward commitment or away from commitment. I want you to think about this. By the time somebody says, I'll do it, the decision was already made internally minutes ago, right? The verbal commitment is simply the announcement, which means the close does not happen at the end. The close happens during discovery, rapport, problem awareness. The close happens during future vision, objection prevention. The close is merely the collection of commitments that you've built through the entire call. Think of a ladder, okay? Think of a commitment. We'll call it the commitment ladder. I want you to think about a ladder here. Just think. Small commitments create larger commitments, okay? This is one of the most powerful principles in behavioral psychology. If someone agrees, yes, that's a problem, they're now more likely to agree, yes, it needs fixed, okay? Now, if they agree, yes, it needs fixed, they're now more likely to agree, well, yeah, I should probably do something. So if they agree, yes, I should do something, they're now more likely to agree, yes, I should do it. So what ends up happening is the prospect climbs a ladder. And all of you, most salespeople try to jump from ground level directly up to the roof. And you have to build the stairs. You have to climb the ladder. You have to build the stairs of commitment. Each micro commitment gets you closer to the close. All right, let's go to lesson 2. All right, let's have some fun here. Module 2, lesson 2, the 4 psychological conditions required for a sale. And we're gonna break down all 4 of these at the highest level. So make sure that you're totally locked in. Give me your mind. I need you to absorb all of this so you win. All right. Look, lesson 2. Condition number 1. We're going to start with condition number 1. Pain must be bigger than change. Write that down. Pain must be bigger than change. And you have to look. Every sale requires 4 things. Miss one and the deal dies. Miss one of these and the deal's going to die. All right. Condition number 1. Pain must be bigger than the change. For me, I've done a lot of deals, and I've listened to a lot of deals. And what I've picked up on is that humans naturally resist change. Change creates uncertainty. Uncertainty creates fear, and therefore every prospect that you're speaking with, subconsciously they're asking, is changing worse than staying the same? Your job is increasing awareness of the current pain, not creating pain, but revealing the pain. Okay, here's some word tracks for you. Walk me through what's happening right now. What frustrations does that create? What is that costing you financially? What is that costing you emotionally? Let's go to condition number 2. The future must feel better than the present. The future must feel better than the present. Just think about that, right? The brain moves toward attractive futures. This is why future pacing works. I teach it all the time. The prospect must emotionally experience life after the problem is solved. Not understand it, but literally feel it, experience it. And that's a massive distinction. People move because of emotion, not information, right? All right, condition number 3. Condition number 3, risk must be reduced. Look, every objection is fear. Every objection, price objection, fear. Spouse objection, fear. Business partner, fear. More information, fear. Look, the prospect is not asking, can I afford it? They're asking, well, what if I'm wrong? That's what they're internally thinking. What if I'm wrong? Okay? And the best closer systematically removes uncertainty. And that's what you need to do. All right, condition number 4. I promised you 4. Here's number 4. All right? Identity must support action. This is where amateurs, and yeah, I'm calling you an amateur. Unless you're making $100, $200 a day, you don't have enough experience yet, okay? And this is where most people lose deals. People protect identity more than money. Write that down. People protect identity more than money, more than logic, more than opportunity. If someone sees themselves as cautious, guess what? They'll hesitate. If someone sees themselves as successful, they're going to move. If someone sees themselves as growth-oriented, we got someone who will invest, right? The elite closer sells in alignment with identity. You got to do it. I don't want to sell against it, right? Just think of this simple concept. You don't want to sell a truck to a guy who came for a car, right? It's identities. It's common sense. All right, lesson 3. Let's go to lesson 3. The neurochemistry of closing. The neurochemistry of closing. Go ahead and title that. Every cell, yes, it is true. Every cell is chemistry. Literally. Let's talk about what is happening inside of the brain. All right, go ahead and write this down. Dopamine, okay? Dopamine is anticipation. Not achievement, but anticipation. The prospect gets excited imagining the future. This is why future pacing creates momentum. You're creating dopamine. You get them excited? That's awesome. That's what you want to do, guys. You're literally able to create brain chemicals, alter and change brain chemicals in someone's brain by your words and your framing and your belief and what you can do to help solve their problem, right? Because selling is about serving and helping people. You're literally releasing dopamine, guys. Like, that's awesome. Those are the cool things. That's one of the really cool things about sales. Let's go to cortisol. Cortisol. Write it down, okay? If you don't know how to spell it, it's Cortisol. Cortisol is stress, okay? Fear, uncertainty. Every objection creates cortisol. The prospect starts imagining negative outcomes. And the elite closers lower cortisol by increasing certainty. All right, let's go to the next one. Oxytocin. Write it down. If you don't know how to spell it, it's Oxytocin. Oxytocin. Hey, and hop off the video and go look into this stuff, right? It's only going to help you become more of a killer when it comes to closing deals. So oxytocin is a trust hormone, the connection hormone, right? This is why rapport matters. This is why stories matter. And people buy before they buy solutions, right? They buy from people. They buy their stories. No trust. No oxytocin, no sale. And that's what you got to remember. Let's go to lesson 4, all right? Lesson 4. The 10 elite closers and why they actually work. You're welcome. You didn't have to pay thousands of dollars to Jeremy Miner to learn how to do all this stuff, or whoever those salespeople are out there. He's the only one I've ever seen. I don't care about that stuff. I only care about helping you win. So here's the thing. Lesson 4. The 10 elite closers and why they actually work. Not scripts, not mechanisms, right? Look, here it is, closes. So number 1 is the assumptive close. Write that down. And here's the psychological principle with the assumptive close. It's momentum. People continue moving in the direction they're already moving in, right? Here's a word track. Watch this, the assumptive close. You're going to say, Nate, it's that simple? Yes, it's that simple. If everything went well and you did all the things I teach in all my videos, all you have to say to it is, perfect, let's get started. All right, let's go to 2. The cost of inaction close. Here's the psychological principle behind the cost of inaction close. Write this down. Loss aversion. Okay, loss aversion. Guys, people fear losing more than gaining. Okay, so here's the word track for cost of inaction close. Make sure you wrote down loss aversion. So what happens if nothing changes over the next 12 months? That question is going to do a lot for you. So you want to make sure you write that down, and you definitely need to ask it in your conversations. Let's go to number 3, the future pace close. Obviously, you watch my videos, you know I'm all about selling the future outcome. So the psychological principle of future pacing, again, dopamine, right? That's what we want. Word track. Imagine it's 1 year from today. And then speak to the outcome of their current pain being solved by using your services. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about how that'll feel. Talk to me about the freedom you'll have with you and your family. Talk to me about what it's going to be like to have an additional 50 grand coming in and 10 extra employees. Like those kinds of things, or 100, 200 grand, whatever. All right, number 4, the ownership close, the psychological principle. Guys, ownership close, self-persuasion. All right, self-persuasion. You mentioned you wanted. You told me you wanted it. Make that make sense. Now you don't want it. You mentioned you wanted this, right? Ownership close. Let's go to number 5. The scale close. SCALE close. The scale close. The psychological principle of the scale close is commitment. Commitment. Write it down. Look, here's the word track for that. On a scale of 1 to 10, and you come up with what to say next. All right, the contrast close. And the psychological principle behind the contrast close would be relative value. So watch this. The word track for that would be compared to continuing the problem. Compared to continuing the problem. Right? And you have to make it go with what they're saying. All right, number 7. The story close. The psychological principle behind that would be social proof. The word track with this would be similar. And Phil Felt Found can lead you into telling a story. I'll have to do a video on that. But anyways, the story closes. I worked with someone just like you. Janet. And they found they were in the same spot as you. They were experiencing this. And after using my services, they found that blank. They're now relieved of these symptoms, whatever their current pain that they're experiencing is. All right, number 8, identity close. The psychological principle, hey, consistency. Okay, people act consistent with who they believe they are. That's never going to change. And here's a nice line that you can always hit people with is, well, John, you don't strike me as someone who blank, doesn't have clean books. Oh, you're right. You know what I mean? So, all right. Number 9, recommendation close. The psychological principle behind that would be authority, okay? The word track for that is my professional recommendation is this. All right, let's go to number 10, the direct close. The psychological principle behind the direct close would be leadership, right? Would you like my help or not? Oh, there you go. Hey, you got to be the one that says, how do you say things like that? You got to build massive rapport, build a best friend, knock them out, knock their head off, right? With kindness and love. And let me just say this, as long as you actually care about helping someone and you genuinely care about the person and not closing a deal, I think you'll just speak so much differently. It's truly amazing. All right, anyways, lesson 5, the highest level of closing. Most salespeople try to create urgency. Elite closers create consequences. That's a huge difference. Look, urgency says buy now. Consequences say here's what happens if you don't. Right? Humans are prediction machines. We're constantly evaluating futures, and the elite closer doesn't pressure. They simply illuminate. Okay? They make invisible visible. The future cost, the future opportunity, the future consequence. Then the prospect actually closes himself. So the final mastery principle of today is most people think, how do I get them to buy? The professional closer thinks, well, how do I help them make a decision? Okay? But then there's another level to it. And this is the level you want to go to. The master closer. And this is what I think. How do I shape the beliefs that create the decision? How do I shape the beliefs that create the decision? That's the highest level, okay? Because people don't buy because of your product. They don't buy because of your company. They don't buy because of your stupid presentation. They buy because of belief. And that belief changed. And the person who can change beliefs ethically, consistently, predictably will never struggle to close deals for the rest of their life. Well, I hope you liked the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.